It's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's sourdough. Hey, it's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's also a show.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Breaking Bread with Tom Papa. I am Tom Papa. Thank you so much for being here at the table once again. We're roaring into the holidays, and I've got a good one for you today. A good friend of mine, Anthony Giglio. He is such a great guy, and he's going to talk so eloquently about wine and Italian food, and is going to make you realize that food and wine is something to be celebrated and enjoyed and not feared and what's the word? Feared and tortured or tormented about when you don't know a part of it. This is all about just joy and love and enjoying every aspect of it. And he is such a great guy. The backstory is I met Anthony probably 20 years ago when I was through my cousin Jimmy. And my cousin Jimmy is this great guy, and he just loves, he's one of my 21 cousins and big Italian family. And he connected with Anthony, who was doing this wine event, and is just, they became fast friends. I became friends with him, and I haven't seen him, but we kept tabs on each other as our careers were going through the rise. And he would appear, he became a wine sommelier, and he's very funny, and he became this great writer also. And he would be like the food critic in these different magazines, and he wrote a lot for Food and Wine. Let me just read off some of the great stuff that he's done. He's written for Food and Wine. He's hosted all these great events: the Food and Wine Classic in Aspen, the Pebble Beach Food and Wine in South Beach, New York Wine and Food Festivals. He is a director for the American Express Centurion Global Lounge Network. He was a writer with the wine editor at Food and Wine Magazine, Food and Wine Guide, the Boston Official Bartender's Guide. He's written all of these books, 11 books. He has 11 books. It's crazy. Cocktails in New York, Passport to Italian Wine. He does these trips to Sicily. He's just so great. But what's so cool is, like, we've run into wine people before, and they actually make the whole experience seem even more intimidating. Anthony's just a guy from Jersey who is very funny, and he's more about communication than he is even the knowledge of the wine, in a way. So he gives it to you in such a way that's just so fun and relatable, and it makes you realize, oh, this is something that this isn't complex. This is actually fun, and it's always about whether you're going to enjoy it. We have this great conversation. He's done all of these Zoom events. You have to go to Anthony. Let me spell that for you real quick. It's Giglio. Seems like it should be Giglio, but I knew it wasn't. Giglio. And you go to look him up online, and he actually does these wine tastings that are amazing. And he's been doing them all through the pandemic. Such a great guy. I can't wait for you to listen to this conversation. We went off quickly for an hour talking quickly about wine, eggplant parmesan, Christmas Eve. It's just a great conversation, and he will be on many times. A lot of the people that we've spoken to, Lydia Bastianich, Jonathan Waxman, they all kind of intersect with Anthony. He's always circulating. He always is involved with all of these great food people, and he's just so much fun. And I'm just so happy at this time of year to sit down with him. It was perfect. So enjoy this conversation. And today's episode is sponsored by the good people at DoorDash. DoorDash. Oh, what a relief the people of DoorDash have been in my life, to just bring you not only food from a restaurant, but food from the grocery store. You know how many times I have been lining up, about to bake something, and then realize, oh, I don't have cardamom. Oh, where's my ginger? I'm not going back out. I'm not going back out. I'm calling the good people at DoorDash. Groceries, products, dinner. I mean, whatever you want. And for a limited time, you can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on your first order of $15 or more. Let me say that again. For a limited time, you can get 25% off and zero delivery fees off your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code PAPA, PAPA. That's 25% off, up to $10 value, and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code PAPA, PAPA. Subject to change, terms apply. My tour is on sale right now. We have so many shows. We got New Jersey, we have Tucson, Arizona, we have Chicago, all these shows going into the new year. So if you need presents and you want to give somebody the gift of laughter, go to tompapa.com and you can get the books there as well. It's all there. Enjoy yourself. I hope you're making a lot of stuff. I am already starting to plan. I'm going to be traveling right up until like 2 days before Christmas Eve. So I literally woke up today thinking I have to get everything for the lasagna before I leave on my trip. But that planning is fun, and you start to plot out, okay, what are the big meals, where am I going to go, what steakhouse am I going to be with my friends, where am I going to visit my family when I go back to New Jersey, where are we going to go to Mario's Pizza. I'm plotting it all out. Everything that is going to happen in this month is based on food. And I can also tell in the kitchen, if this is happening to you, things are starting to pop up. There's been like a gift of wine, there's some peppermint bark, there's some Italian cookies. It's all starting to gather. So I will probably be twice the size by the time we record next week. All right. So let's get right to it because we have a big, healthy conversation with Anthony Giglio. You're really going to enjoy it. Keep your pen and your pause button ready because you're going to want to write down a lot of great tips, a lot of great wine labels. It's just a perfect one for the holiday season. So enjoy. Anthony Giglio. Anthony, good to see you. This is such a treat.
Tom, it is always a pleasure, man. It's been too long, actually.
It's been so long. This is so exciting because people tend to poo-poo magic, and I am a believer in magic and that things happen for a reason. And you and I had to make this podcast happen today came from a series of events that should not have happened, and they did happen. And that you and I knowing each other for years, and we'll get into all that. And we've known each other for years, and I literally was like walking around my house trying to find your number. I'm like, yeah, he's got to be on the podcast. We're coming up to Christmas. We have stuff to talk about. I've run into so many food people recently that know you and write about you, and you're in that world. And I'm like, where is Anthony? I can't find his number anywhere. And literally that moment, like at the end of hours, you text me out of the blue.
I was hiding in your phone all along. It was there. You forgot.
I totally did. And then I saw our old conversations. But this is so perfect. And as you said, kismet. This was supposed to happen. And
yeah, exactly.
So good to see your face.
Likewise. I was telling your cousin, we were actually talking about you. I said, I'm digging Tom's Instagram, like the 70s vibe that like you look like every one of my like uncles in the 70s, except like it's current. And it's a look that looks really good on you. It's a great,
What do you mean by that? What part?
No, the look you like. There's a vibe on some of your Instagram videos that captures for me like a very familiar feeling of the 70s. That like that it's kind of a hipster look. The long sideburns. I sported them until my wife made me get rid of them. But like I like the look. And I was talking to your cousin about it, who is he's the glue that binds us. Cousin Jim.
My cousin Jimmy is a great guy, and that's how we became pals years ago in New York, because Jim is he's very successful in his own right and loves to eat. Of course, Italian. Part of one of my 21 cousins, and he loves to eat. And he was the only cousin that not only loved to eat, but could afford the best places in all of Manhattan.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah. How did you meet Jim originally?
I was sent to San Francisco by Wines from Spain, the commercial wine bureau of Spain, and they sent me to teach waitstaffs about the Rioja wine campaign back in, this is like 1995 maybe.
Uh-huh.
And I got invited to a party, and Jim was a guest. And the two of us just looked. So someone invited me to a party at a friend's house. It was like a friend of a friend's cousin, and they said, "Oh, you're gonna love each other. You should go to her house for a party." And I got there, and it was an outrageously fun party. And your cousin was there, and it was just that look, we're like Jersey boys out of our element, connected. We just knew, that there was something there, and we literally spent the rest of the weekend together. Like we went out.
Wow.
We watched the games, we went to brunch, like we were all over the place with this pack of people I hung out with. And
right.
he would say, "I'm coming to New York soon," and every time he came into town, we would get together, and we became great friends.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I got you as a bonus. You were a bonus gift.
Yeah, and I was a bonus gift. And then we hung out once we got into the New York end of things. Yeah. And it's been such a cool thing because I mean, literally, Anthony, we spoke a little bit, but we haven't really hung out in probably 20 years.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, it's real bad. So we're going to fix that today. We're going to get started, because the other part of it is that you've taken this path, which I guess you started, if that's when you met Jim. And I remember it was the beginning of your career, really.
Yeah, I was about 5 years. I was about 5 years in at that point. I graduated in '89 from Fordham, and with journalism. So I'm a journalist first,
right,
who got great advice to become a sommelier, to learn about wine, just to write about it. I never really wanted to work as a sommelier. I just wanted to be able to speak and taste professionally, so that I could translate it into writing about it.
Right.
And that's what I had started to do. I got my diploma in '91.
Okay.
Worked at Windows in the World for 2 years until '93. I worked until the night before they bombed it.
No, really?
Yeah. We closed
the first
that
bombing.
Night. Yeah, back in '93. Dale DeGroff, the famous mixologist, who I met, years later, I wrote his book, The Craft of the Cocktail, with him. But he and I closed that night. He was working the bar, and I was working the private wine room, the cellar in the sky.
Whoa.
So, craziness. Yeah,
that is crazy.
So I was a couple of years in, and then I took on this fun gig for Wines from Spain when Spain was really, really struggling to make a beachhead here in the US. Nobody knew anything about them. And I still think today, I would argue today, 30 years later or 25 years later, most Americans still don't understand Spanish wine. They know they're delicious and they're everywhere, but we still don't know what we're doing with them because we don't know what the varietals are. Like we could barely sort out the fact that we all speak French but don't know it. I mean, every grape we know is French, right?
Right.
But yet, if I say, okay, let's connect the dots, like all the tastings I do right now, Tom, I've hosted, by the way, during the pandemic, I have hosted 380 virtual tastings for over 10,000 people in 9 countries, and I'm still going.
Oh my God.
But one of the favorite seminars is Old World, New World Smackdown, where we pit like Old World, New World. I'm like, you all know what Pinot Noir is, but what if I say to you Pommard? What if I say Côte de Nuit, whatever, start naming French addresses. And that's a big, for me, a big stepping stone for everyone who doesn't know anything, who says like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I'm not confused about wine. I'm like, let's just start here. Everything you know about wine, almost 99% of it comes from France. And the reason that we are disconnected from is because in the US and the New World, we speak by the grape. Mm-hmm. And in almost the entire Old World, where every grape is from, they speak address. So Barolo, Brunello, Chianti, Rioja, Champagne, Bordeaux, all the big addresses.
Right.
All the addresses. Within those big addresses, there's smaller, more exact addresses. So that's why you tell me what I love to do, Tom, and I'm going on a complete tangent.
This is great. Keep going. This is perfect.
I love pouring people. So like what I do is I send everybody 4 bottles for these virtual tastings. I'm using Verve wines in New York City, San Francisco, and Chicago. They ship all over the country for me. Right. So we send every house 4 bottles, and then we taste 4 together in an hour. But I love throwing in a Chablis. And everyone seems to know the word Chablis. Like it's one of those like, Downton Abbey, wine names that comes up, and people, so I'll pour them a white wine, and I say, let's not talk about this till after we taste it. And then I have this whole thing that's about tasting every single wine 3 times, because the first sip doesn't count because we're neutralizing the palate, or rinsing basically.
Right.
Second sip is when we really could taste balance, and we do this fun exercise. And then I say, okay, now whether the host sent you treats, or if I sent instructions the night before, raid your pantry and fridge. Now taste it with something savory. Add fat plus salt. It could be a potato chip, it could be prosciutto, it could be pate, it could be anything simple. Let's taste it again. And after that 3rd sip, then I say, okay, now let's vote on this wine. Are we here? Are we here? Are we here? Yeah. And then I get them hooked. I'm like, all right, how many people like this wine? And hopefully a majority of them raise their hands. I'm like, how many people here, by the way, hate Chardonnay? And a majority of people raise their hand. And I'm like, you are drinking Chardonnay, but not just any Chardonnay. You're drinking one of the oldest addresses for Chardonnay. It's over, I think, the year 1140, we found like the first sightings of Chardonnay in this address in France. I'm like, it is oak-free Chardonnay from the source, and it is clean, crisp, steely, minerally delicious. And that's why you like it. That's why you like it. So stop saying you hate Chardonnay. You hate cheap Chardonnay. You hate the Chardonnay that you're handed at every wedding, every corporate party. Every wine by the glass is a cheap garbage Chardonnay. We have to stop pounding on Chardonnay. There's a lot of great Chardonnay out there, but we're all victims of the 90s when Chardonnay became the oak bomb, shoulder pads and hairspray dynasty wine.
It's so true. It's so true how trendy all that stuff gets.
Yeah,
it really is. I mean, like Sideways, with when he shit on Merlot. I was loving Merlot my entire, it was the beginning of my adult life, and I was like, this is so soft, and it's surprising, and it was nice. And I was like, oh, I can't possibly order this in front of anybody ever again.
Tom, the biggest, I was so conflicted with that movie, because I was geeking out from the wine side of it, but I also thought Giamatti was such a douche in that role. And the worst thing that I would hear people say, oh my God, Sideways, you remind me of Paul Giamatti. I'm like, is it physical, or is it that I'm a douche, or is it both? Like, either way, I don't want any association with that side of the wine world. I mean, I've basically made a career. Like, you and I are both, I'm going to be immodest here and say, we're funny guys. Like, we can't help ourselves. We could just comes pouring out of us. You get paid a lot more to be funny than I do, but like, but the point is, like, I use that as a way to disarm people to have fun with wine, because I cracked this code 30 years ago that it is a terrifying, overwhelming topic. People want to be comfortable, but they're really not comfortable. Very few people are comfortable talking about wine. And I'm going to say, like, let's just throw it all out the window. By the way, when I became a sommelier, I threw away 80% of the technical data and said, but how do I speak plain English to my fellow Americans and give them what they need to know, which is, why do I like it? Why don't I? And let's figure it out. Because we could always take it to the next place. See where your taste leads you, and just to get people to relax about it.
It's look, I've taken somewhat of a journey, like, just because once I started learning that, anything at all, and started to follow my tastes and follow different regions, and then I'd meet a friend that like loves Barolo, and then I went into there, and then I had a friend that was really into Chateauneuf-du-Pape, and I was like, I started going there, and just letting it lead, like, just kind of let it naturally take its course. And then I find I'll take the course and I'll go down this path, and then get stuck in the side of the road. And it's like, I can't get out of Chateauneuf-du-Pape. Like, I just keep spinning my wheels. And then you're like, oh, why don't I go?
Place to be stuck though, by the way. It could be worse places to be stuck in Chateauneuf-du-Pape.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's so much. I think that is the thing that becomes the daunting part, even when you start to get turned on and your palate becomes a little more sophisticated, and more than like you knew before. It's just so vast. That's the thing that always gets me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the good news. There's boundless supply to be discovered. And that's actually, it's really good to not stay in your comfort zone, like to keep moving out. Like, I take no greater pleasure than tricking people with spectacular bargains, because most people expect that I'm drinking really fancy stuff, or my nickname is Fancy Pants. My family can't believe that this is what I do for a living. So like, people's like, oh, Fancy Pants would never drink a $10 wine. And I'm like, I would if it's from Spain. You have no idea what's hiding in
Yeah.
plain sight from Spain and now Portugal, which is coming up really fast. But like,
Oh, really?
that's one of the few places you can get amazing wines for $10-12 that are only that price because we're not demanding them enough and the prices stay low. But I always say this, if you find an $8 bottle of Spanish white at your local store, like we have here in the Northeast,
Yeah.
Hudson County, there's tons of it, Jersey City, New York, where my office is, I could find great $10 Spanish bottles.
Yes.
I would expect that if we knew the address, if they came from a better address like Barolo or Brunello or whatever, we would pay $10 more or double the price.
Easily. Just because you're like, yeah, you're shopping for it. It ticks off the boxes.
Yeah.
And you drop your credit card, and then you
Right.
go home, and then you convince yourself it's great, even if you don't like it.
Right. And I also say, like, there's a really funny part of that some people won't buy it because it's too cheap. And they either can't be seen buying it because it's too cheap,
Right.
or they'll go home and order it, but order it for delivery. But the truth is, yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely, people think you have to spend more to get more. And I by the way, I'm happy to take anybody's credit card and spend as much as you want,
Right,
with you, for you. But
yeah.
but I also know that, like, there's definitely a fun game to play, which is, well, if you like this, let's look. It's like real estate. So you can't afford, name your LA metaphor. You can't afford Rodeo Drive. What's around the corner? Maybe we can. I'm going to take you right around the corner and say, if you like Shut Enough to Pop, well, why don't you just try? Like, why don't we start a Cote de Rhone and build our way up to that? Or
Right. Oh man, it's so great, and it really is such a fun thing to get into. And there are some killers that are at a price point that's a little higher that are reliable. I mean, like the Domaine Tempier,
yeah.
So good. And that's probably $40-$50 a bottle,
60-ish here.
Yeah.
Someone asked me about it last week. I hosted a tasting and we had a rosé, and I said, now, if you were really wanted to bling out, like you'd go for Tempier. Like Tempier is, like, for Psalms, like one of the geeky great rosés. I'm like, but for a lot of people, I don't know if you're comfortable spending $60 on rosé. Like, it doesn't seem serious enough, right?
Right.
But, they have a beautiful white as well and a red, but like the rosé is what made them really famous. But people expect to spend $20 on rosé, not $60.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Do you remember Domaine Ott? It was that, like, genie bottle back in the 90s. It was like one of the early super rosés, and I remember because it had this gorgeous, look at the lava lamp bottle that's been copied a million times since, but you could still find it. It's a gorgeous salmon colored and a gorgeous label, and it had everything right. It used to be 18, and now it's $60, $70, $80 because sort of like the super rosés. For me personally, I'm never going to spend that on a rosé. I'm never going to spend that on white wine either.
No, me neither.
My money goes on red if I'm going big.
100%. 100%.
But again, I'm usually I'm too cheap, and I'm spoiled. I get samples.
Well, you must
every day.
I know, that's a great thing. I know. I did something for Hall Wineries.
Sure, Catherine.
Yeah, and they were so generous. Just from doing a podcast, just case after case kept showing up at my house. Nice. I was so happy. Yeah, so no, you picked a good career for sure.
I will say I count my blessings, and then. I didn't know what was going to happen during COVID, and Tom, like I felt tremendous guilt about how busy I was when a lot of people in the restaurant industry were suffering.
Sure.
But I felt like, I got to look at it that I'm providing a service that clearly is needed, which is people still need to connect. People need to socialize, and they need alcohol.
Yeah, exactly.
I figured out a way to get wine into everybody's houses in a model that really worked well, and
it's so great.
I'm so thankful.
Oh, to reach that many people. I mean, you never would have done that even live and in person.
I can't.
No way.
The fact that I could do 3 in one night.
Yeah.
Standing here in my dining room, like I literally have the jacket, the shirt, shorts, and flip flops, right? Because I'm standing at a bar right next to me here.
It's so great.
And I have a 15-minute break. It's like,
it's great.
Brush my teeth, get back up, do it all over again.
Oh, it's so amazing. I gotta break in on one of those. The other thing that I really was excited to see that you were doing is you'd had like trips to Sicily.
Yeah,
because Sicily, my people are from Sicily, and I've never been to Sicily.
Oh, shame on you. Let's
I
go.
know.
Let's go.
And
Get the private jet right now. Let's go. Can you work that out? Can you make that happen?
Yeah. I'll do my best. I want to go so badly that I've started poking around just to have wine lead the trip.
Yeah.
And I found through I've been ordering wines through Kermit Lynch.
Sure.
Because it does such a good job of telling the story of the place. I'm a writer and stuff, so I love anything that comes with a story. I'm hooked, and I'm in. And there's so many. What I first thought was a very sparse amount of wines from a region is actually the opposite. There's a lot, and it seems like a lot of new wineries starting up in Sicily.
Oh gosh, Sicily, and well, I mean, yeah. So Sicily is actually two stories. There's the flat mainland. And then there's Mount Etna, which is on fire. I mean, like, and Tom, I tell this story over and over that, so, my wife, Tony, is Sicilian.
Right.
Her parents came over, like, basically pregnant with her. She spent all of her childhood summers there for 3 months. And so, like, we go back to her parents' house almost every summer. We've missed 3 years now.
Wow.
But when I was dating her in the mid 90s, or, maybe 97, Mount Etna probably had 13, maybe 19 wineries on Mount Etna. And this was before anyone was talking about it. And when I was there, nobody was talking about it. It wasn't on my exams. I didn't even know about it. Yeah. And her house is at the north coast of Sicily at the foot of Mount Etna's north face, and it's behind us. We could see it belching whenever, it's all there. It's like omnipresent. But as of 2020, there were over 370 wineries on Mount Etna. It got discovered. Like it just, and literally, like, the metaphor of it exploding is real. That everybody from the north came down to plant a flag, and then all the critics started writing about it. I mean, then once Eric Asimov writes about it in the Times, it's over.
Yeah.
And he did that probably in 2012, and it just was a stampede of people going on there. So
whoa.
Now there's luxury hotels and spas, and when we go up there, we're like, what the? It was tumbleweed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is it good, or is it good, or is it too much?
No, it's amazing. And the wines are so different. So Mount Etna's wines differ from anything else on the island. So if we were talking if you come to class with me, Tom, I would tell you that the main grapes on the mainland are Nero d'Avola, which is the main red of all of the reds in Sicily, and they have some Syrah and other grapes, but Nero d'Avola is number one. Okay. And on the white side, it might be Grillo and Insolia, Moscato. There's a lot of white wines grown there, but Mount Etna separate. 2 red grapes. The primary is Nerello Mascalese, and a tiny bit of Nerello Capuccio, and then there's a white called Caricante. And what some people wince at this, but critics went crazy about Etna because you're at this high, you think it's this blazing hot island, but up at 2,000 feet where the grapes are growing, it's blazing sun all day, and then a huge shift in temperature at night. So the wines have spectacular acidity because they have this diurnal, roller coaster every day, and they have fog and sea coming out. Like it's all right there. So the wines they talk about them as very high in salinity, which is a strange word to use with wine reviews, but it's becoming more common. And there is this, when you smell the whites, like the Caricante is probably one of the most beautiful whites I've tasted in years. Like when I go crazy for these. There's a wine called Pietra Marina by Benanti, which is one of the old families from the region, and it's like $160 in New York at good restaurants. Really? It's one of the few white wines I would buy. Wow. With, if I was with a host who said, "Hey, let's go crazy," I would say this white wine is insanely overpriced, but it's really worth it.
Really?
But to go back and say, Tom, what people say about Etna, for better or for worse, is that it is the Burgundy of Italy, meaning Pinot Noir and Chardonnay from the source. These grapes remind you of really beautiful Burgundy because they're a lot of acid, a modest fruit. They're more like Burgundy, where Americans are so used to fruit. This is the European paradigm where you get more earthiness and acidity that are better for pairing with food, rather than, and this is part of one of my many jokes, I was like, the American paradigm is wine is food. We just expect deliciousness without thinking about, will it be better with food? Will it go with food? We certainly pair things, but the baseline is this better be good right now.
Yeah,
And
no,
I say,
exactly. No food involved.
and I'll show you the stinkers. I'm like, well, let's taste this wine from Etna. And I pour this one all the time. It's off here to the side called Calabretta Cala. And it's a little thin, a little chalky, a little minerally. And 2 sips in, people are like, and I'm getting them excited. And then they taste and they're like, it's interesting. And I'm like, now I want you to grab a piece of that Parmigiano right there and take a bite. And then let's take a sip. And then it just explodes because that's the European paradigm.
Yeah.
Wine and food are locked together. And that's a weird concept for Americans. And I say, because we're spoiled. We have beautiful West Coast wines that are just over delicious ripeness and fruit and power. Europe, acid too. I go, think of acid, squeezing lemons over food. It makes it better. This gets better with food. They taste better together.
I had a, over Thanksgiving, I had a bottle of Bandol.
Yep.
And Jim Harrison, who's wrote like crazy about food and stuff, and his thing is like, this is like try this with food, like have this. And I had my nephew, and I did the same thing. I'm like, all right, try this. He's like, yeah, it's good. I'm like, all right, now take a bite. Take a bite of that turkey and then take a sip. He was like, holy shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's as a red wine drinker, that always kind of trips me up, because if I'm having fish, like which really calls for white, and it's like, but I'm going to plow this red right over it. I don't care that it really doesn't technically pair.
Well, Tom, I say that all the time, that if we were having, like, I'll say, like, and usually like these tastings are usually like a group of 24 people, clients of clients, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, when Tom takes us all to dinner next time, Tom, I do have your credit card number, so I will be making a reservation at Little Owl Townhouse next time you're in New York. But I will always say to the chef, 4 courses. Second course is red wine plus fish. And savvy chefs know what to do. But I say, but there are chefs who, like, when I do this in Kansas or somewhere, like, I don't get it. I'm like, anything that you would think of that you could anchor to red wine, use for the sauce. So is it capers, mushrooms, tomatoes, beurre noisette? I mean, like, brown butter, like they would use on classic skate wing in French cuisine, is that white fish with browned, burned butter poured over the top. You've now anchored it to red wine. And the red wine just has to be higher in acid, lower in tannin. So your California cab will not handle it. It will still crush the fish.
Right.
You need high acid. So Pinot Noir, Gamay, a lot of the European things I'll show you, like that, like the Etna Rossos, would be amazing with that. And that's how you blow people away, because people sit down. I'm like, I know you're thinking this is a weird pairing. Let's talk about it after. But let's take a sip first.
Right.
Enjoy the course, and we'll talk about it after. People just can't get over it. It blows minds.
Yeah. Blows minds. This is the greatest thing I've learned since I've been doing the podcast.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's so great. I went to, there's a big wine shop, which is actually, I think, closing, 2020 Wines in LA.
Nope,
and
don't know
it looks like a Raiders of the Lost Ark. You go in and it's like this big cavernous place, and there's just bottles everywhere. And I always like to go in and have the owner, who's the shopkeeper, like, what are you drinking? What can you turn me on to? And, there's crazy bottles for hundreds of dollars. And he would always take me to, like what you're saying, like those finds, what he's drinking. And Spain always came up. There was this, I forget the name. It was like the pedal, like La Petule. Yeah,
Pétalos from Alvaro Palacios.
Oh my God, so good and so affordable, and I just gobbled it all up. It was so tremendous.
I have your new favorite right here.
Oh yeah. This is the great thing about doing this podcast, is whenever somebody like turns me on to stuff, I have to listen to my own podcast to get what I was taught.
So I've poured
Ultria
gallons. So the winemaker's name is in this. So this, by the way, let's pretend this is one of my Zooms. I'd say, okay, look at this label. This is why you don't buy Spanish wine. This is the dumbest label in the history of labels, because it tells you nothing.
It tells you nothing.
It sort of sounds Latin, right? Ultria sounds Latin.
Yeah.
But then Saint Jacques sounds very French. What the hell?
Yeah, what's happening?
If you squint, right there, it says Raul Perez. It is so small, it's insulting to anyone who has to wear glasses. So what do you get here? Nothing. The
Yeah.
gift from Spain is the bow tie. We call it right here. This little tag is mandated by the Spanish government. This is the American government. This is where you get the, you know, the very good advice, like not to drive a tractor while pregnant. After, you know, but this is what matters right here.
Yeah.
And it's two things. Bierzo is the region, and the grape is Mencia. And by the way, this is all to say, now Americans, what is Mencia? Who knows?
Yeah.
How would I describe it? I call it the love child of Grenache and Syrah. It's the love baby of those two. So for me, it's the juicy middle. It's, by the way, you mentioned Châteauneuf-du-Pape earlier. Châteauneuf-du-Pape is one of the villages in my favorite place on the planet, the Rhone Valley. People don't know the Rhone. People, and by the way, Tom, I don't know about you, but do people expect you to be your favorite place in the world? It has to be Italian wine. Like, I'm expected.
Yes, of course.
Italian wine. Like, people like offended. You know, in the Northeast, they're all very the pitchforks come up when I don't say I love a good Chianti. That's my favorite place in the planet.
Tell me your favorite Brunello or your favorite Barolo. Yeah,
and I'm like,
absolutely.
I like all wine. I will taste anybody's wine. I will with your credit card. I will buy any wine. But my happy place, honestly, is the Rhone, and this to me is the Rhone in Spain. Meaning because the Rhone to me is the happy place between super light, high acid reds like Pinot Noir and Gamay and Beaujolais and the Sicilian we just mentioned. Yeah. And then the other end of the spectrum is massive tannin, which is Cabernet, Barolo, Nebbiolo, etc., Priorat. In the middle, I call it the juicy middle, and that's Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, the GSMs. And Tom, in California, the Central Coast, there was a movement in the 90s called the Rhone Rangers, and it was it was a bunch of winemakers like Randall Graham and I'm forgetting Bob Lindquist, Coupe. They were looking at everybody drinking Chardonnay and Cabernet and Chardonnay and Cabernet and Chardonnay and Cabernet long before Merlot and Pinot Noir entered in and Sauvignon Blanc, and they were like, there are other grapes to be heralded, and they include the GSMs, and that's actually a category that you could find on labels. It'll just say GSM because there's no majority. It's Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. And in Australia, that's a humongous category. In Australia, they drink a ton more Rhone varietals than we ever do here in the US.
Oh, interesting.
Tons of great. That's why, you know, Penfolds Grange is Shiraz, which is Syrah. Syrah is the Rhone. Right. And so it all goes back to the Rhone. This is my favorite place. So this is the Rhone, and it's at a fraction of the cost because this is I take full responsibility. I've helped drive this up from $18 to now $24 because I keep talking about it to everybody and everybody.
Well, you got me. I'm going to do it.
But this would be. But I said if this were from Barolo or Brunello or Bordeaux, this would be $50. $50, no problem.
Really?
$50, no problem. And it's just gulpable and delicious.
Oh, that's great. Oh, this is awesome. All right, now let me ask you this. Well, we had a couple of food people that were on the podcast who you knew. There was one I couldn't remember early where early
on you were going to see Barbudo. Jonathan Waxman.
Jonathan Waxman, that's what it was.
And he mentioned me in his book because of my. I always give him jars of tomato sauce every year.
That's right. That's what it was. And I was going not only to interview Jonathan, but also for the first time with my family. We were my sister has a farm in Clifton, New Jersey, called City Green, and we were taking all the tomatoes and we were boiling them down, and we were sitting underneath the house at the Jersey Shore all day making tomato sauce. And
I need to know about that. That's not.
Oh, it's so great. It's in Clifton, New Jersey. It's called City Green, and she creates all of these. She's got a couple farms, and she has not only provides vegetables to all of the cities, but she also learning gardens and has summer camps, and all these kids from Patterson and Passaic and Newark and places, and these kids come in and they get to learn how to garden and how to do all this stuff. And
that's great.
It's an amazing operation that she's created. It's been like over 10 years now.
Oh, I love it.
And the good part is my nephew is the head farmer, gets all the tomatoes, and then he brought them down. And for the first time, we really Italianed out. We had the big pot. We were just stirring it all day. We canned it at the end. It was heavenly. And and that's why when I saw that you knew what the hell I was talking about from the Jonathan Waxman book.
Oh yeah. So I grew up in my house where I grew up on the west side of Jersey City. We did the tomatoes in our basement. The whole neighborhood knew about it. Like, we'd have the Laverne and Shirley windows held up with the eye hook or a stick keeping the window. And like, our house would be wafting for days with boiling cauldrons of tomatoes. And then my grandfather died in 1990, and the family went cold turkey and just stopped. Sort of like a I don't know, like a protest movement, and then nobody. And I was still too young to get involved. But I meet my wife and her family. They are literally off the boat. I mean, both of her parents came from Sicily in the 60s, and they would say, "Oh, we can the tomatoes in August," and I said, I will be there. I will be there.
That's so great.
I wrote about this in Food. I wrote about it in Food and Wine 2 years ago. I wrote a really lovely, I like to think, a lovely tribute to my mother-in-law, who is an amazing gardener and an amazing cook. And I said, like, I will not lie that when I heard that there was sauce to be made, that weighed very favorably in the decision to give my wife a ring. Like this family I was entering into had checked a lot of boxes that I really loved, including a beach house in Sicily and a mother-in-law who loves doing laundry. Like, she'll come over here with a shopping cart and take our laundry. I'm like, no, it's okay. You really don't need. And she's like, I have nothing else to do anyway.
That's so great. And, that's heaven. That's heaven.
Dude, she does laundry according to the weather, because the whites have to go out in the sunny day, so they bleach in front of, like, as the sun will whiten them. And like,
come on,
she's timing. It's crazy. I have friends who send clothes over when they can't get stains out. They say, do you think Lucia can help with this? I'm like, Lucia can make it look better than it looked when you bought it. Like,
that's amazing.
She makes everything beautiful.
Oh my God,
so
that
funny.
Is heaven on earth.
So
that
funny.
Is so great. Yeah, and I spoke with Lydia Bastianich recently.
Yeah,
and
I love Lydia.
Yeah. There's so many. You pop up. Oh, and the pizza guy.
And so Dan Richer. By the way, so Lydia was at Dan's media party when he kicked off the book 2 weeks ago. So Lydia was. So all worlds keep colliding. But, Lydia. Dan Richer, Razza Pizza. A lot of fun with us as Jersey boys, always fighting for respect with New York. When Pete Wells wrote in the New York Times, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago now, is the best pizza in New York City ... in New Jersey. It was like the earthquake of all, like the daggers, people came from Brooklyn with their knives, like, what is
yelling
happening,
and screaming.
And the pizza is so ridiculously good. Last night I hosted 3 friends were in town from Sicily, from my wine tour team, and then Gary, my partner here in New York, who I work with on the tours, and his husband Sal, who owns De Gustavus Cooking School. So we're all connected. But I had never been to Razza, and I said, take the PATH train. It's 2 stops, and we'll have an amazing dinner. And and I said to the kitchen, I said, here's the Italians. They're xenophobes. There's never any food as good as theirs. And they complain about everything outside of their mother's houses. Let's see what they say. They had no reason to lie to me. They were like, this pizza is extraordinary. Like, wow, extraordinary. You got to come,
so
Tom.
Great. We're going to do it for sure. No, absolutely. I think that's when we're going to reunite in person, is going to be at Razza for sure.
Has to be.
So as you're running around in your life and things have opened up and we're running around a lot more for sure, and you're making lists and you're trying to do things and you're trying to keep track of what you're going to make for dinner, or if you're even going to have time for dinner, or if you just forgot something at the hardware store, whatever you need, DoorDash is there to help you. What do you want to eat tonight? Maybe you want a home cooked favorite. Maybe you feel like you don't want to go to the store. Maybe you look and you've got, this is my life. I always think I'm going to make something and I'm missing 1 or 2 last ingredients. Well, it's time to get back out there. But if you're not quite ready for a full-blown adventure, there's still ways to explore the world from the comfort of your home with DoorDash. You don't need to travel far to experience something new. Get what you want to eat right now and right to your door with DoorDash. Along with restaurants you love, you can now get groceries and other essential items delivered with DoorDash. Get drinks, snacks, other household items in under an hour. Why would you ever go to a store again? Craving late night ice cream? DoorDash. Forget your ginger? DoorDash. Maybe you need some tape when you're wrapping presents? DoorDash. And for a limited time, our listeners get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code PAPA, P-A-P-A. That's 25% off, up to $10 value, and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter the code PAPA. You should have this app on your phone. I don't know why you don't have this app on your phone already. You should definitely have this app on your phone. Make your life easy. It doesn't add like a lot of money to get stuff coming right to your house. They figured it out. Don't forget, the code is PAPA, P-A-P-A, for 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Subject to change. Terms apply. You're the best. And the great thing about Raza is that he's trying to convince me that I can make the pizza with the bread dough that I use, with that I make. Okay. When I was like, so 00, right? We got to do the 00 file. He was like, no. That's why would you use something? So it's like, proprietary to Italy, when we're here in the States and we have all this beautiful grain and all this beautiful flour.
Yep.
No, what you have when you're making your sourdough bread is fine. You're going to be able to make this great pizza, because pizza has been a bitch for me. I have not been able to master it at all. Yeah. I don't know why. It's been hard.
Yeah, I went through the bread phase too with during COVID, like making all the beautiful sourdoughs, and like I got really into it. And then I was talking to him about it, and he said, "Come spend a Saturday with me, and we'll make dough. We'll make a lot of dough." And I worked with him all day, and I definitely picked up a lot of tricks and advice and tips. But he's beyond. He's just he's so brilliant, and he has that. A lot of the press he's been getting about the book is this rubric that he has. He puts everything through these crazy rubrics, like double blind tomato sauce tastings, and I think he's got like a rubric of I should know this and I don't. It's like 60 points of checklist that has to be done for pizza before they allow the pie to come out. And like it's always mind blowing to people when they pick up a slice. Yeah, East Coasters, we fold it right away, and the West Coast apparently you eat it flatter. Apparently, but like it will never bend. It never doesn't matter what, because he is the master of knowing the exact size and weight of every ingredient that is going on that plate, and it's a strict rule. And how they'll all cook at the same time, because there's only one shot. You know what I mean? So it's like, and he measures. He's constantly using like he's got the a caliper that he uses to measure slices of eggplant. And he made an eggplant pie for me this summer called Eggplant Super Salt, and it was a love letter to my mother-in-law, who taught him how to make real Sicilian eggplant parm, and my super salt that that he was very instrumental in helping me get that right in the beginning when I was testing it and trying to take a commercial.
Wow. All right, hold on. Before we get to super salt, tell me about this eggplant parmesan.
I can send you a recipe. It's online, actually. My mother-in-law's eggplant parm is unlike, and that was the Food and Wine piece was about, is that I grew up eating avoiding a lot of crappy pizza parlor style gloppy green eggplant,
gloppy, slimy,
like goo, like just it was awful. And so when my wife, she says, "Oh, we're going to my mom's for lunch, and she's making eggplant," and I said, and I will politely nod and say thank you, but I'm not really into this. And she was like, "Oh no, you have no idea my mother's eggplant. It's famous." I'm like, "Says who?" And she's like, "Says everyone who eats it." And I was blown away, because it's the opposite of what you think it is, right? Like it's not the bread flour, egg flour dredge. But Lucia is this master. She buys she could do it with any shaped eggplant, but of course the raison d'etre would be the be all end all would be the big fat softball Sicilian bright purple ones in the summer, like August, right? Here it's August. We have to wait until August, but she could do them with the normal black ones. But she would peel them. By the way, her secret is you pick them up and they should be as light as a feather. And I've said that to friends. Think the opposite of citrus. Like when you buy citrus, you want the heaviest, juiciest oranges and lemons. That's how you know that they're not haven't evaporated, because they haven't been sitting on shelves for weeks. Right. But eggplant is the opposite. The heavier they are, the more seeds are inside, the more bitter they are. Okay. And so she will always say, she goes through the baskets. At our local farmers market, they know her. They put baskets under the table for Lucia, and then she comes through and just throws overboard all these heavy ones. Like, "What's wrong with those?" And she's like, "They're all seeds." And they're like, "How do you know that?" And she's like, and she'll like do the scale for you. But you peel it, you would slice it, and she sliced it very thick, like
thick.
As thick as my iPhone. Like
I thought
literally
for
like
sure
that,
you were
right?
going to
Like,
say thin. I thought that was going to be the
nope,
first move.
no. And then she would put a plate in the kitchen sink, and
Mhm.
she'll start doing circles of eggplant, heaping
Yeah,
salt
with the salt. Yeah.
all the way up and up and up. And then she fills a pasta pot with water and puts it on top of that pile of eggplant. And as the salt is bleaching all the juice out,
Yeah.
it's crushing it and compacting it under the weight. And then she moves, after an hour or whatever,
Yeah.
she goes and watches the Vatican for a while. She'll come back. She's got the satellite dishes on. She's watching the Vatican 24/7 and Italian cooking shows. She pulls the pot over to the side, and then she literally takes the eggplant and rinses it in the clean water,
Uh-huh.
and then puts it on paper towels. And it's just like that. And then
God.
that's it. There's no bread, no egg, no flour.
What?
She dries them, and she puts a thin coat of olive oil in a pan, and it's bing, bang, out. And like they crisp.
What?
And they crisp, and then she builds it. She starts to build a pile of them, and then after she's done, she tips the oil out, and in that pan, it's on the stovetop. There's a whole category of Sicilian cooking that I learned. I'm Neapolitan, by the way. This is all new to me. But like after the war, they were so devastated, Sicily.
Right.
There was no gas lines. People didn't have gas running into their houses.
Right.
Everyone was using single burners or electric burners, but
Mhm.
most things had to be done on the stovetop, or you had to carry it down to the bread baker and pay them a few pennies or whatever to bake things at the end of the day, or after the bake to roast something if you had the money. So she makes everything on the stovetop, and you build the eggplant with tomato sauce, and I'll give you that recipe too. I have it's all online. And then the eggplant, and you just keep building with Parmigiano and up and up and up. And then the lowest flame cover on, and it just collapses into this spectacular lava of concentrated tomato and eggplant purity. It's like unlike anything I've ever had. And
That's
she sends it constantly. And like there is a point where we're like, oh my God, your mother sent our eggplant. But like what we'll do then is we make it, we'll use it like I'll put that in a pan and toss pasta with it. Like anything just to use it, all different reasons, all different ways to use it. But at the height of summer, that's like a first course when we have friends over with a big hunk of crusty bread, and some people are like, what is this? I'm like, that's the other eggplant parm you've never had before.
Wow, that is amazing. It doesn't even make sense.
No,
it really doesn't.
And I say like it's handled so much more heavily here. But by the way, I wrote this piece in in Food and Wine. I repeat the story, but I wrote this in Boston Magazine years ago, and I said, it seems like they asked. I was the wine critic at Boston Magazine, and they said, we want you to write a feature about the North End, their little Italy.
Yeah.
The highways were coming down. Remember they did the big dig, and they took down all those. And they said when 93 comes down, it will actually expose the North End, which has been separated from the rest of the city by this man-made barrier. And when it comes down, we worry that we might lose Little Italy. Will the North End get absorbed into the rest of the city and disappear? That was like this thought they had. So they sent me in and they said, go review everything in Little Italy. And I was like, of course, yes, please. And I went up there and I wrote this piece, and I said, there are real Italians living here from Northern Italy, Tuscany, whatever. I go, but the overriding recipe ends, every single recipe in America ends, add mozzarella, sauce, and bake. It's like everything gets parmed. Shrimp gets parmed, cauliflower parm. Like everything gets buried in sauce and
comes out in a boat filled with sauce.
So it really super interesting to me that it goes against anything you expect.
That's amazing. All right, so back to your salt. I didn't know that you had this side hustle.
What?
Yep, I had no idea.
We got to catch up. I think you know that I'm a decent home cook. I'm not a trained chef, but I have tons of chef friends who teach me a lot and let me cook with them. So I've been making this compound salt that it was a riff on a recipe that a friend gave me, Sally Schneider, who won a Beard Award for her book, A New Way to Cook, probably 20 years ago. And so Sally's a great friend. And there was this one little tiny paragraph, like as an extension to a roast recipe for pork or something. And it was Tuscan herb salt. And it was chopping 1 clove of garlic, one branch of rosemary, and then cutting it in with salt, and until the salt absorbs all of it and it starts to turn, the color of the rosemary. And then you use that to slather all over this pork roast. It's an amazing recipe.
Wow.
But I took that, and for years I would just start riffing more and more crazy things into it, where everything on my, my windowsills, a whole herb garden, I would be like, okay, I prefer more sage. Rosemary is very heavy, very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Let's use some thyme. Let's use this. And I kept adding more garlic, and I kept scaling this thing up to where I would start to make sheet pans of it and let it dry on the kitchen table. My family would want to kill me because it was reeking.
Wait, what exactly was on the sheet pan? What do you mean?
So I would build on a cutting board. I would take, let's say, 5 heads of garlic.
Okay.
And make a mash, like just a complete paste of
5 heads of garlic?
5 whole heads, not cloves, heads.
Right, heads.
Right. I'm scaling this up. I would probably be using 5 to 10 pounds of Sicilian sea salt. In the beginning, I was using kosher salt. Like my early days was Diamond Crystal kosher salt, but
right.
And then chopping a bunch of herbs and I would start to measure and eventually I was scaling it up bigger and bigger and bigger, where I would then make 2 to 4 sheet pans at a time.
Whoa.
And then literally, like, I do in Lucia's basement and then put them out in the yard with a sheet over them and let the sun dry them all day, because then it would get really hard. So all the moisture in the salt pulls out all the moisture and then it got hard. And then you have to bang it with your fist and make it into a powder again. And I would bag it and sell it to friends, and friends would be like, I would leave it at friends' houses. I'd go to dinner house.
Yeah.
I'd come to your house like, hey, let's grill some burgers. And the next thing you know, I'm putting it on, and you're like, what the hell is that? And I'm like, and I'd leave it to you. Like, hey, this is something I make on the side. Friends, of course, in our business, we're all, connected. Like, you need to sell this. I'm like, who cares that I make salt? I'm a wine writer. Like, what does that matter?
It's so great.
It's a long story, but it's like the kismet we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I do have a knack for stumbling into these conversations and situations where it's unbelievable how these things unfold. But
right.
My wife's cousin invites me to a dinner party, and the woman sitting next to me has an import company, and she says, "Of course, you're the wine guy." And I said, "Yeah." She was like, "And you're the salt guy." And I'm like, I'm trying to get this thing off the ground. She said, "Why don't you let me help you?" I have a huge stand at the fancy food show every year, and everybody comes and kisses the ring. And she didn't say that, but I know that's what's happening. Everybody came, like Martha Stewart.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody came to see Cecilia, and she made a special corner for me and said to her whole team, start over here with this, coffees, teas, candies, panettones, blah, blah, and everyone ends with Anthony, and then hand it off to him. And I met over 350 of the biggest names in the gourmet food world, and they all gave me advice on what to do with this thing and what it should look like. And
right.
One of the things they said was, the problem with what you're making is you're using all fresh, which sounds great, and it's what people want to hear, but they're troublemakers. Rosemary and garlic are troublemakers that never dry. And if you put them in a jar, even though you think they're dry, they might cause mold. So have this stuff tested, and you're better off substituting for dry. And I said, I will never use dry. Like, does it make any sense?
Like a garlic powder?
Or garlic flakes. I'm like, no, I could never do that. I will figure this out. And of course I couldn't figure it out. And then Cecilia, this woman who helped me again, she has this company called Italian Products and Beyond. She said, hey, I have a truffle producer in Bologna who's interested in helping you. Like, helping me. She was like, well, she goes, I've helped build his career. He helps me. I help him. He wants to help you because I'm helping you. And he has a process called flash sterilization. So he passes truffles through these very expensive machines where it is able to kill the microbes that might cause mold, but the integrity of the produce stays intact.
The fresh produce.
So all my herbs go through, and they're cleaned, but they're not killed. So they stay green. And when you mash it into the salt, so here's the salt, and
super salt,
and so the salt stays moist and takes on the color of all the herbs. So when you open it, it's sort of like a sel gris from France, like that salt that's wet when you open the bag.
Right.
It actually stays a little moist. Like if you leave the lid open, it will dry out. But it's very moist when you open it, which wasn't the way I used to make it. I used to dry it solid, but I was told it doesn't matter how dry you think it is. We sent it to labs. They were like, nope, there's still moisture in here. Will fail. You'll fail an FDA inspection if you try and put it in the jar. So I offloaded it to Italy. It's being made in Bologna. But I'm in
so great
95 Whole Foods up the East Coast. I'm in all the central markets in Texas, Foxtrot markets in Chicago, Dallas, DC. I just got picked up by Food 52, picked me up last Tuesday and I've already sold over 200 orders. It's been crazy.
My God, that's amazing.
Yeah, they come in 2-packs because it's really.
Yeah, I saw it online. You can order it online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a whole store set up in Shopify. By the way, the funny, so the play on my last name, of course, it's a side gig is my company name because this is my side gig.
Gig.
I was like, oh, it should be a little side hustle. It has absorbed the better part of my life for the last 2 months because it's holidays and I'm packing boxes every day when I'm not talking to you and other people on the Zoom.
Right.
Like I'm packing. So I'm selling a ton of it right now. But
it's amazing.
It's amazing. I'm so excited that's
so great. And what is it? What's the best use of it?
Tom, it goes on everything.
You put salt on everything.
Yeah. Well, so think about it. You could start your day with eggs. It's amazing with eggs, whether they're scrambled or just finished over the top.
Right.
I actually whip it into butter. So my kids are so used to garlicky butter now because we have like compound butter with super salt. But anything you would roast, any vegetables, fish, meats, anything you grill, honestly. And
everything you salt.
You have to just be judicious. And like what's funny is my wife who doesn't cook, I'm the cook in the house, right?
Yeah.
So I would say like, hey, you could do this, you could do this. And she's like, Anthony, simplify it. It makes your life easier because you're not chopping herbs. You're not chopping garlic. It's all in here. You don't have to do all that other stuff. Like it's for the weeknight cook who's like, I just want to throw, like I constantly make a quick pan of chicken thighs. Like there's got to be something in the house for my beastly 16-year-old son who needs to eat it all hours of the day. I'm just constantly I'm like, it takes exactly 5 minutes to do this, guys. Screaming hot pan, a little olive oil, put some chicken in there, sprinkle some salt, turn it in 4 minutes, another 4 minutes, and we're done. We have made chicken. This is how you have to survive. My son gets up in the morning, he scrambles eggs, he makes his egg sandwiches, super salt. But it's gone pretty crazy. Like I can't.
That's so great, Anthony.
So funny,
that's amazing.
I will send you some. I'm going to send you some at your address.
That's so good. All right, before we wrap up, I was going to start with this, but we just had too much to talk about. Christmas Eve, we're coming into the holiday season. We're coming into my big celebrations are Christmas Eve. I do the Feast of the Seven Fishes.
Yep.
The Italian wonderful celebration. This is kind of interesting, especially off the white wine conversation with the fish. Now that if I could just base some of my fish in rooted in the red wine category, I'll be very happy. First of all, how do you celebrate during the holidays? And what is give me a little gift of wine knowledge to go into the holiday season.
So do you want Christmas Eve? Like that's probably the big fish day. Christmas Eve is the fish day. So like we will have
you do it too?
Yeah. So it's my wife's family and my family. We actually all get along really well. So it'll be either my house, my sister's house, my parents, my mother-in-law's. Like we'll all come over. So in total, we're around 16 or 18 all in. And Christmas Eve is a spaghetti with clams, of course, shrimp cocktail, shrimp scampi, fried calamari, stuffed calamari. My mother always has to have her stuffed lobster tails. I like to kill whole lobsters, but the family's not really into the nitty gritty of it all. But so I'll make just a few of those for me and some of us. But my mother-in-law, she'll make the bacala in a tomato sauce with olives. And that is red wine central. I mean, that is tomato sauce, right? So tomatoes, that's an easy one. My clam sauce has tomato in it, but it's more of a white sauce. But there is tomato, but just it's not red like Vincent's in Little Italy on Mott Street or something like that. So, but I will always have a very light, chilled red on the table, no matter what we're having, because there's always a place for it. So, Tom, this is you asked me a little wine advice. Here's where I'm going to start and say this: all of our wine, no matter what weight, what color, what price, needs to be chilled. And this is a colossal problem that I go over and over. Americans have been completely misinformed about wine temperature. If you Google my name and temperature, you will see it comes up with temperature tantrums that I have all the time, because I can't impress upon you how much of a difference it makes to chill a wine in an ice bucket for 5 quick minutes with ice and water. You cannot believe how much better it tastes after 5 quick minutes in a shocking cold bath.
All wine.
All wine. All red wine. But there is a tipping point. So the bigger tannic reds like Cabernet, can get too cold,
right?
And they shut down. But like when I talk to you about like those Burgundies and Beaujolais and Gamay and the Norellos from Sicily, the super high acid reds. And if you just said that to any wine store, hey, I'm looking for super high acid red, that is a thing, and they will know exactly what you mean. Like, well, we have, and they'll start showing you a million of them, and the price will be all over the place, from $10 to $100. But those are the ones that you literally can leave in the ice bucket, Tom, all summer. They're in ice buckets with the champagne and the white wine.
Really?
They can't get too cold. So the 10-degree window for wine service is 55 to 65. There's no room temperature. I like to remind people, when you see those wine fridges now that are available everywhere.
Yeah.
Did you notice there's no room temperature setting in there? It's a refrigerator, because red wine needs to be cooled down to minimum.
What should 65. I keep my little wine fridge set at?
So is it for one temp or two?
It's one temp.
And you keep mostly red in there?
Yeah.
55 is fine.
55?
55, yeah. Because it doesn't matter. If the wine's a little cold, it's very easy. It'll warm up in 5 minutes in a glass. Like, it's not, like I always say, the greatest problem to have is the wine's too cold.
Right. Okay.
Hold it like they do on nighttime TV, like a chalice, like the wrong way.
Right.
You'll heat it up in 2 minutes in your hand.
Yes. Welcome to my Christmas Eve.
But that's what I would say, Tom. So like, all right, it's winter, especially here. Your winter isn't our winter, you spoiled brat. But so everyone's here is thinking like big, massive reds, tannic, power. They still need to be chilled, not massively, but they should never be drunk room temperature. But I still think that when it comes to food pairing and red wine, unless it's steaks or burgers, like really big red protein, there's a huge missing space for high acid light reds. And there's a million of them out there. All you have to do is ask, say, I'm looking for some high acid chillable reds. And every retailer worth their salt knows, worth their salt knows.
Worth their super salt.
knows. So, I mean, that's a great place to start. I mean, I think that I would say that if that's helpful. I could go on and on, as you know, but
this is great. Well, listen, this is the first of many appearances that you're going to have on this podcast.
Thank you.
And we are going to get together when I get back. I think I'm performing in January in Jersey.
Yeah.
So
let me know.
So I'll pad it so we can get together and go do some damage somewhere.
Razza pizza.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
I'll bring the wine. I got a lot of good wine here.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get Jimmy to come back up.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm going to see him next week. I'm actually speaking at the Palm Beach Food Wine Festival next week.
Oh, nice.
He's 10 minutes away, so I'm going to see him next week.
Oh, that's so great. Anthony, you're the best. This was so much fun.
Tom, you're the best.
It's true. Have a great holiday.
All right, man. Thank you, brother.
All right,
man. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
All right, everybody. That's the big show. I hope you enjoyed it. I told you it was going to be a lot of fun. A lot of stuff to write down. Go out and get yourself some affordable wine from Spain. Get some high acid wine that should be refrigerated, and enjoy. Thank you to Anthony. Go to tompapa.com. Look up all of my tour dates. I'm coming to Newark. I've got 2 shows there. I've got Tucson, Arizona coming up soon. A lot of tour. I mean, I can almost just name cities at random, and I will be there between now and this time next year. All right, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your holiday season. See you next week.